Hi everybody, my name is Jin Ben and welcome to iHome Church. This morning I would like to speak on the topic of what is love. I'm sure that many of you have asked this question over the course of your life, and I certainly have asked this question countless times. And the thing that I like to do whenever I have questions in my mind is whenever I can direct them towards my parents or the true parents, our father and mother. But many times when they are not available or when they're busy out saving the world with many of you brothers and sisters, then I turn to God. And I asked this question to God. And God appeared to me and said, when I asked the question, God, what is love? And God said, you are love. Injin, you are love. And so when I had a chance to spend some time with our true Father during fishing season, I spoke to my father about this conversation or a revelation or whatever you want to call it. And my father said, Kure, that's right. And God told you correctly. You are love. And we as sons and daughters of God have to live our lives really being that representation of true love, sons and daughters. And Father went on to talk about how each and every one of his children's name was given by God. And Father said, when you were born, God gave me the names and that you have. And your name, Injin, was given to you through me by God. And so Father would often say throughout our lives, throughout the children's life in their true family, that we have to become sons and daughters that can really embody these names that God gave to each and every one of us. So for us growing up in the true family, which is supposed to be really the manifestation of God's first family, our parents being the true parents of all mankind, or the victorious Adam and Eve, certainly weighed heavy on our minds. And our lives were not made any easier in knowing that we had to kind of be the kind of people that really fulfill the names that God gave us. So when I kind of studied the structure of my family, I don't think it's a coincidence that God's first family, or what we call the first full position foundation in our church, is composed of of course, our father and mother, the true parents, but the children are equally divided in terms of sex. There are 7 sons and 7 daughters. And when we were growing up, one of our my older sister, who was born 1 year before me, she died very shortly after birth, and she was the second daughter. And when I turned 18, I lost my younger brother, who was 17 years old, in a car accident, and he was the second son. So in essence, the second son and the second daughter went to the embrace of our Heavenly Parent much sooner than we would have liked. So 6 sons and 6 daughters grew up together. And Father had often told us that, you guys kind of represent the 12 tribes of Israel. So the most important thing that you need to do in your life of faith is to really be centered on God and really be centered on true parents. No matter what, no matter how difficult life gets, you must not forget that you have to be the symbol of unity as one family under God, that we would like the world to be. And so this was systematically and lovingly, taught throughout the years. And so when I learned, upon hearing the divine principle and the first chapter, the principle of creation, and we realize that we are made in God's image, that God has male and female characteristics and attributes, and therefore it is seen in the humanity as male and female, and the importance of really restoring the fall by having a victorious son and a victorious Eve come together and really, in celebration of the marriage of the Lamb, invite all of humanity to partake of God's true lineage, the lineage that Satan wanted to take away and claimed as his own through the fall. So growing up in the true family, we were very cognizant that we had to try our best and we had to be a good example. But whenever I was kind of confronted with difficulties vis-a-vis, my siblings or even my own relationship with my father and mother, I kind of read the names or the Chinese characters that each of the children had. And Father encouraged us to always kind of think of ourselves as pairs. So he would say to my eldest sister and my eldest brother, Yejin, Hyojin, you have to work together. Hungjin was no longer alive, and therefore he would ask me, I have to work together with Hyunjin, and Eunjin has to work together with Kukjin. And so all of our names were kind of stuck in pairs. And in one of these study sessions that I had, really kind of reflecting on the divine principles and the kind of a life that we need to live as true children, this poetry of the true family came to me. And when I realized that we really need to be kind of like a physical manifestation of God's, male characteristics as well as female characteristics, and just so symmetrical in its composition in the family, I realized that our names take on an incredible message. And so when I put the characters together in pairs, this is the poetry that comes out. And this is what I call the true family poetry. And this is the poetry that I like to read to myself time and time again when I'm faced with incredible difficulty. And you realize that when you put all the Chinese characters of the children's name together, the daughter and sons together, what we get is a beautiful and an encouraging and an inspiring poetry that I think God wants the true family to convey and express to the world and substantiate it in our lifetime. The poetry becomes, when we embody God's words in filial piety, ye and hyo, and inspire our inner beauty to arise, he and hum, benevolence and virtue will be made manifest in and hyun, and establish one nation under God's grace, Kuk and Un. And God's authority will prevail in goodness, Kwan and Sun. God's glory celebrated in beauty, Yang and Yun. And all will go well in the world or in the realm of heart, Hyung and Chung. And so, read without the interjections of Korean and Chinese characters, it reads like this. When we embody God's word in filial piety and inspire our inner beauty to rise, benevolence and virtue will be made manifest and establish one nation under God's grace. And God's authority and power will prevail in goodness, and God's glory celebrated in beauty, and all will go well in the world of heart. Isn't that beautiful? I think this is the kind of a message, and it is the message that God wants to share with the world when He really created and gave birth to the true family. And so when we think about the magnitude of each of our responsibilities, we know that just as God prepared each and every one of us, God so prepared all of you with care, with attention, with a name that perhaps you need to fulfill in your life? And I really do feel that all of us have been called to work with our true parents at this time. And so when we ask our true father or our true mother or our true parents, what is love? Well, what does Father say? Father spoke on October 25th, 1969, the day of my husband's birthday. And Father said, "Men and women are God's masterpiece. When they love each other centered on God, it is supreme, transcendental love, not worldly love. They feel that their love is the best of all loves, the most beautiful, shining forever. Where they can experience and fulfill such a love. Where can they experience such a love? Only in the family." So again, we realize that true parents are the masterpiece of true love, and we understand the full magnitude or the profundity of what love is really about in the context of a family. And therefore, it is no surprise that true father has taught and true mother is teaching that there is only one eternal true parents. They are the Alpha and the Omega. And we as the children are kind of representatives of the world, representing the 12 tribes of Israel. But there is only one, an eternal true parent. And of course, in the course of our lives, the work of building an ideal family, certainly an ideal tribe and nation and world, is excruciatingly difficult. But under the leadership of our true father and our true mother, our true parents, we have struggled on. But you know, there are many strengths that our community has, as well as our weaknesses. And we know that there have been many grand victories that we have all accomplished together with our true parents. But there are many things that need to be worked on as we move forward into this next millennium. And I think at this time, now that our Father has ascended, and we don't visibly see Father's manifestation, speaking to us on a daily basis, scolding us, cajoling us, and really imploring us to go a certain distance. Sometimes we forget that Father is alive and well and working together with our true mother. This is really the time of the unity of heaven and earth. And we are in the work of kingdom building. And Father says so many times that the most important thing when you want to create heaven in the context of a family or in the context of any place is you take two different people, many times it's male and female, and you get them to work together with the sincere desire of living for the sake of other. And that's how you get heaven. And so I find it not surprising that after our Father's ascension, there has been so many challenges to our true mother's authority, from people not fully recognizing true mother's value and true mother's significance in providential history. And there have been so many attacks on our dear true mother. And I have kind of sat quietly watching the whole thing, because really from the pulpit of thy home church, I speak as my father and my mother's daughter. I am not speaking on behalf of the church. I am not holding any official positions. But I want to share my heart because Father asked me to and God asked me to. And I feel that my voice, as well as the voices of other members of the family, need to be heard for the sake of the future. But I was so disturbed and alarmed when I heard after last Sunday some of the things that have been coming out of Sanctuary Church by my younger brother. We as true children all have to go through our own course. And I believe in the end of the day, that regardless of where we go or where we have wandered or which direction we have chosen to take, that ultimately we will come together and we will stand united as a victorious family, That vision never leaves me, and I believe it each and every day. But when I heard that different members of the members of the Sanctuary Church are clapping along to the claims that now true mother is the harlot or the whore of Babylon, I cannot just sit quiet. It's one thing to have resentment or have criticisms or even constructive criticism towards the church and towards the corruption or towards the shortcomings that everybody know that we're dealing with. We've been dealing with it for the last 50 years. The corruption is no different from when Father was alive. It's alive and well. And any student of political science knows that if you get a group of people together and they are not inspired by this culture of love that our Father, the Reverend Sun Myung Moon, is teaching, you are going to degenerate into corruption, power plays and position plays and, greedy reaches and grabs for this and that. And that's the reason why we need a role model or true parents at this time. But to have a member of our own community call our true mother the harlot or the whore of Babylon is something that cannot go unanswered. Our true parent and our true mother is the most sacred thing in our belief system in the church. They represent the male and female characteristics of God here on earth, through whom we received this incredible gift of the blessing. And to just superimpose Revelation 17 literally on the character and the personage and on the position and the person of our true mother is something that you cannot just let pass. Because this is something that directly will destroy our church and our community and the future of our community, which is our third and second generation. Brothers and sisters, I think we really need to take a good look at Revelation before we start hurraying and hurrahing and calling our mother the whore of Babylon. Most people who understand the Bible, or most people who have studied the Bible, know that this book of Revelation and the authorship of John is really kind of this author who was exiled to this island of Patmos because he was a witness to Christ. This is really his attempt to wake up the people of his time. He is writing to the people of his time. It is not a prophecy for an end time of a certain woman who is supposed to be the whore riding on the beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. And what John was concerned about was the state of the believers of the Christian faith. And he was not concerned so much of the Christian persecution that these Christians were dealing with. But what he was alarmed at was the accommodation of these Christian believers, how they were being seduced by the very Roman empires into imperial cults, or the indigenous cults that existed side by side with the Christians. And so he wanted to create a visual, almost an aggressive image for the believers to contemplate and reflect on, so that they will not deviate from their path of living a true and a Christian life. And so we realize that a lot of the authors, when they kind of lash out against women or use words like harlot or whore throughout the Old and New Testament, many times they're doing so in response to these indigenous cults that existed side by side with Christian believers. And of course, in the Old Testament, your Christians are dealing with the cult of Baal, the cult of Asherah, and later in the time of New Testament, these cults kind of, transformed itself under a new name of the goddess of Artemis that represented the goddess of childbirth and fertility. And then you are presented with the goddess of of love, Aphrodite. And this was kind of like a new transformation of the cultistic rites that were performed in really the worship of Baal and Asherah. And we realized that the reason why the Christian authors were so stringent and so aggressive in terms of their language to instruct the Christian believers to stay the course is that these cultistic rites practiced not just human sacrifices, animal sacrifices, but they engaged in sexual rites with temple prostitutes. And so they were literally engaging in illicit sex that was contrary to the Christian teachings of really remaining steadfast to your husband and wife. And so John, the authorship of Revelation, was really concerned with this because at his time, he was dealing with some of the Babylonian cults that were still very much alive and well. And so when he talks about, different characteristics of this harlot, he is invoking the direct understanding that people would have had of what a harlot or what a prostitute would have meant. And a lot of the commentators that have kind of studied this Revelation 17 have said, that for some, it's really a misogynist fantasy of one sort, because here is this seductive whore sitting on a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, and she sits upon the waters representing multitudes of nations. So she has this incredible influence, but she is nevertheless a harlot. And what John is doing with this whole symbol imagery of a harlot sitting on this beast is kind of invoking the parody of Dea Roma, or the goddess of the patron city of Rome, that is enshrined in the imperial coins, sitting on 7 mountains. And the 7 mountains or the hills represented the city of Rome. And so here this woman sits. And the figure of a woman is chosen because many of these cultist rites were based on goddesses of childbirth and fertility. And they were instrumental in seducing a lot of Christian believers to kind of practice and be a part of this native or indigenous cult worship when the Christian God, which was very male in our understanding, was being left for this seductive goddess of fertility, of goddess of childbirth. And certainly when the Israelites came to meet and live amongst the Canaanites, they realized that Canaanites were primarily farmers. And so the harvest, the desire for a fertile harvest was very much in their minds, and therefore the goddess of fertility was the god of their choice. And so these were the struggles that early Christians were dealing with. And John goes on to say that why did he call Babylon a mystery? Why is Babylon a mystery? Because first of all, he is a witness that has been exiled to Patmos, that is writing this letter. So he wants to create metaphors for people of his time that they will all understand, but in a non-obvious way, state the obvious that will be made plain to all believers who read this letter. So he uses this word mystery because he's basically alluding to the fact that you can't really read it literally. And he's letting us know that it may not be initial understanding that he is going for, but perhaps the secondary or the tertiary definition or identification or meaning that we need to look at. And so even when we examine the word harlot, porne, of course it can be translated into English as a harlot and a whore, and that's the first definition of what that word means. But when we look at the unobvious or the secondary or the tertiary or the third definition of what that word means. It actually means a political entity that is against God. And so when the author of this book, John, is saying it's the mystery, this is the mystery, he wants you to do a little bit of solving and letting us know it's not the obvious definitions or not the obvious identification, but you need to dig a little further. And also when we look at the name of Babylon, it can be translated into the gate of the gods. But then again, understanding that it's a mystery, we need to look further. And when we look further, we realize that John is pointing to not something that is physically manifest, but he is talking about something spiritual. He's alluding to something that really doesn't exist, but has a huge sway over people spiritually. So he's talking about the Babylonian religion in particular. And what he is talking about is that the Babylonian religion is basically based on a sexual rite involving thousands of temple prostitutes. In fact, it was a religious duty of every Babylonian woman believing in this religion to be a temple prostitute at least once. That means more than once in their lifetime. And this was so prevalent that it really alarmed a lot of Christian fathers and certainly alarmed John. And it was seducing a lot of the Christians away from the faith. So when we look at the actual name of the goddess Ishtar, the Babylonian god, it is translated or it is referred to as the mother of all whores or mother of all harlots. So when the book of John, the authorship of the Revelation, meaning the unveiling, what he is talking about is the Christians need to be diligent and really stand fast on their loyalty to the Father and remain loyal and not be seduced by this goddess-like figure or the mother-like figure of Ishtar or the whore of or the mother of whores, as it was well known in that time. And of course, the colors, red and purple is invoked throughout, that this harlot is wearing these colors because these colors represent the city of Rome, the elites of Rome. And it is also the colors of the Roman Catholic Church. So when the church deviates from God or any political entity that deviates from God, it becomes a harlot or it becomes a whore. So it's not surprising that throughout the Old and the New Testament, that even Israel has been referred to as the whore or the harlot, or even Jerusalem has been referred to as whore or the harlot, when it went against God and when it was not right by God. So we realize that if these city-states engaged in a relationship, kind of like a patron-client relationship that prostitution entails, this is something that really alarmed the authorship of the book of Revelation. And so when he talks about this harlot, sitting on 7 heads, again, it's talking about the 7 hills, really representing the power of Rome, on the 10 horns, really representing the 7 kings or 7 nation states that are engaged with Rome in this illicit relationship. And so we realize that, if we understand what the book of Revelation is saying, and also realize what people are saying when they call our true mother the harlot of Babylon, it's absolutely astounding to me and leaves me speechless. Because, Revelation 17 doesn't just describe the whore or this figure that is riding on a beast with 7 heads and 10 horns, but it also kind of foreshadows her demise. and specifically writes out what will happen to this whore. And it's a horrific and a gruesome image. And it's something that the writer definitely wanted to do, to provoke a very, very serious response. And the end of the whore is kind of described as her being hated and made naked and devoured, in the flesh, and then burned. And these imageries are just so repugnant to most of us who are believing in our lives and trying our best to live as great Christians and great unificationists. And so people who tend to kind of invoke the wrath that is implicit in the image and in the language of Revelation 17 is really at a crossroads in their life, because we need to be careful in really asking ourselves, well, what is love? If we are sons and daughters of love, if we are men of love, are we going to read Revelation 17 and superimpose the person that we cannot stand or that we want to get rid of in our life and basically, prophesize their end in terms of being, laid bare, laid naked and devoured and burned and hated? Do we really want to do that? Or do we really want to be the kind of people to say, look, here the author is using figurative language because it really wants to wake up the people of his time. But just as any good book not only works in that time, but also in our lifetime, this is a wonderful passage to really kind of reevaluate our understanding of men and women. And really kind of understand that there really has to be a new message. The great thing about the book of unveiling is that it is going to continue to unveil. And the great thing of having our true parents here in our lifetime is the providence still moves forward, continues to unfold. And so for me, as a member of the true family, understanding the kind of a poetry that we need to embody in our life of faith, it becomes incredibly distressing when I hear words spoken like this. And, in order to really be a loving community, we need to kind of practice living for the sake of others. But love doesn't mean silence all the time. Love doesn't mean weakness all the time. Love also means clarity. Love also can mean guidance. Love also can mean inspire. And during this time of confusion, I believe that our community really needs some clarity. I know that a lot of people are following the Sanctuary Church because my brothers and their followers feel that they have access to this esoteric knowledge of the inner sanctums of the true family, the inner workings of the true father and true mother. Well, they're not the only ones. The other members of the true family are privy to that as well. But Father made it very, very clear to the true family and to Hyungjin, me and Kukjin, who were serving our true parents in a public role at that time on numerous occasions, that after true father comes true mother. And he really implored the two younger brothers of mine to create Cain and Abel unity centered on our true mother, so that through our true mother, they are brought to true father, and so on and so forth. In other words, the magnitude and the meaning of significance of our loyalty and working and uniting with our true mother cannot be overlooked. And if we continue to understand the unfolding of our providential history in our church as something that is Christian, we are going to miss the boat. Right now we are so caught up, some of us, on this male relationship that the Christian model has taught us, not realizing that the feminine attributes of God also wants to be made manifest. In a way, the feminine attributes or characteristics or the voice has been silent through 6,000 years of biblical story, and in particular in the last 2,000 years of Christian history. Women have been silenced for so long. But now with the advent of our true mother, with the advent of our true parents, in essence, the Reverend Sun Myung Moon came to liberate all of womankind from the chains of the fall through the victory of our true mother. That is why our true mother is absolutely crucial to the success of who true parents are and to the victorious success that will be the true family, I believe, and that will result in a world of peace as we work towards it each and every day. So Father was very, very clear. There is no an additional step before Mother becomes perfect. Father declared Mother perfect on numerous occasions, and upon her victory as that victorious Eve, launched the Women's Federation for World Peace in 1992. And for more than 23 years, that work of giving the woman the voice, giving the woman the right to really hold leadership and exercise authority in our life of faith is something that Father promoted, Father taught, and Father lived. And anybody that understands the relationship or the dynamic of Father and Mother they were an incredible loving couple. They had their ups, they had their downs, they had their difficulties, but the incredible thing is they never gave up. And the love between the two of them inspires me to this day. And because our true mother was victorious to our true father, so much so that the true Adam can declare this true Eve gloriously victorious, is the basis of the liberation of all men and women. True parents come to liberate not just God, as we know it, the male aspect that is taught through Christianity, but true parents come to liberate the female characteristics of God as well. That's why I think it's kind of interesting, in the country of Korea, we not only have two fathers, but we have two mothers. We had Kim Il-sung representing communism. We had true father representing, the true love ideology, the divine principle. God versus no God, very external, and you're talking about the division of two kingdoms. But also in Korea, you have two mothers. Here is God wanting to really manifest the feminine aspect of God's being. And so we have our true mother that we see really as a representation of God's female attributes. But there's also another church called the Church of God in Korea that was started by Mr. An, founded in 1964, that also preaches that the second coming will come to Korea. And they believe in God the Father and God the Mother. And I find it incredibly interesting how Father, in his original manuscript, or the Wali Wonbon, that later became the Black Book, or the Divine Principle as we know it, he wrote on page 278, "Throughout human history, we have related to God only as our Father, and not as our Mother. We have not even thought about why God had to be the Father and not the Mother. Further, we have not even considered that the fundamental meaning of God is as our parent, Father and Mother. How can we even fathom the bitterness of God? It cannot be more clear. And these are the words of our true Father, not our true Mother." So brothers and sisters, we have to understand that there is a reason why things happen the way they do. And regardless of how difficult or tumultuous our path might be, we have to stay true to the head of our movement, which is our true parents. If we decapitate the head and proclaim it a failure and create a new head that we are going to seek allegiance to, we are going to be no different than all the war of religions that have existed throughout our time. And in the words of Albert Einstein, who defined insanity, really, as doing the same things over and over again, expecting different results. I think a lot of people at Sanctuary Church think that as long as you get rid of bad people, you get rid of corruption, and you have a brand new world. It does not work that way. The reason why it does not work that way is regardless of whether you start new regimes or new political groups or not, if we do not change the culture of men and women, the culture of the heart, or what Father explains as this culture of true love. There will always be corruption as long as you get a group of men and women together. You think that there's a lot of politicking going around the bodies of our true father and true mother? When you set up your own church and you deal with the new true parents, as you have deemed my younger brother and his wife to be, you will see the same thing happen. If the culture of the heart and the culture of true love is not addressed. And how is the culture of true love addressed and expressed? It needs to be expressed and learned through the family. Therefore, the poetry of our names is incredibly, incredibly important. Because what does that poetry say again? It says, when we embody God's words in filial piety, in filial piety to our Heavenly Parent, and in filial piety to our true parents, and inspire our inner beauty, and arise. Benevolence and virtue can be made manifest, and establish one nation under God's grace. It is not under my grace, it is under God's grace. It is under true parents' grace. And God's authority will prevail in goodness. God's authority through the body of true parents will prevail in goodness. And God's glory celebrated in beauty, and all will go well in the realm or in the world of heart. So Hyungjin, as the last son, he is born with the name all will go well. But not all will go well by himself. It has to be worked into the family, and realize that all will go well only if it is working in terms of creating a world of heart. Not a world of dissension, not a world of separation, not a world of disunity. So regardless of whether we think we know any better, we really must remain vigilant to not make the same kind of mistakes that the disciples of Jesus made. They thought they knew better. Why did Jesus rail in against the Pharisees of his time? The ones who were the caretaker of the law, who were the teachers of the law, who knew the Jewish law better than anybody else. Because they were the one attacking Jesus, basically saying he is not following the laws of the Torah. He's not being true Jewish. But Jesus came to fulfill the laws. Likewise, true parents come to fulfill the laws. And many of the unificationists are making the same mistake as a lot of the Pharisees were doing against Jesus Christ, because we are criticizing our true mother and calling her a failure on points of theology, on points of law. And we must not do that again. And because Jesus' disciples could not remain steadfast, united with him, in a way, when the second coming came again in the body of our true Father, he had to proclaim himself the Messiah, and therefore was called the self-proclaimed Messiah. And people gave him hell throughout his life, not really understanding that he comes as a representation of Son of God. And in our church, our true mother now is being called the self-proclaimed begotten daughter of God. Well, it should be us that is really honoring her as the only begotten daughter of God, as we honor our true Father as the only begotten Son of God, because they are our true parents. So brothers and sisters, when I see the talk that is going on, and vitriolic talk, and different people sending in resignations and saying this and that, this is really not what our true Father envisioned for our community. Our Father over and over again said, no matter how difficult, you have to work united with our true mother. Nowhere in our Father's talks to the family, or in small groups, or the inner sanctum, as you may want to call it, did Father ever say, after I ascend, Lovey becomes the next king. Father made it very, very clear. After me comes true mother. And the true family is all clear on that, because Father said it clearly. He said it definitively in front of not just us and not just in front of me, who was one of the children working in public missions, but along with my two brothers in Pennsylvania. They were there as well. So if we are truly true to our true Father, then we have to honor the body of true parents as that sacred entity. And we have to unite with it, understanding the shortcomings of our community, understanding the shortcomings of the leaders, understanding the pain and suffering that we've all felt, brothers and sisters. Not just the true children, but that all of you felt. But we have to do this together. There is no winner and loser. There is no one group that is going to win and see the demise of the other being naked and voraciously eaten and burned alive. We have to work together as a family. Because what is love? How do we understand and experience love? It is through the family. So we need to start preaching. And we need to start not just preaching, but living what we are teaching the world. So brothers and sisters, I truly pray that at this time, in response to some of the things that are being said, please reflect wisely and please ask yourself the very question that I asked God. What is love? And when God answers to me that you are love, well, I am reminding all of you that God is saying to all of you that you and I are love. So the way we are, the way we conduct ourselves in love and in allegiance to and loyalty to our true parents will determine whether we can really fulfill the dispensational will of building an incredible one world of peace or not. So brothers and sisters, please have hope. And I have absolute hope, understanding the poetry of the true family, that we will be victorious. But in the meantime, regardless of the confusion, please remain vigilant and united with our true parents and work with our father and mother who are here working with us each and every day. So have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.
Like the world upon my shoulder. Through the clouds I see love shine. Keeps me warm as life grows colder. In my life there's been heartache and pain. Oh, I don't know if I can face that again. Stop now. love is. Love. I know you can show. Know you can show me. I wanna know what love is. I wanna know, wanna know, wanna know. I want you to show me. I wanna know what love is now. I wanna feel what love is. Want you to show me. Know you can show me. So much love. I wanna know what love is. I want you to show me. I wanna know, wanna know, wanna know, wanna know. I know you can show me.
Too much
I
flow.
wanna know what love is.
That's too much flow.
I want you to show me.
That's going.
I want you to show me.